Across the EU, there are thousands of initiatives aimed at integrating and including refugees and new arrivals within host communities. However, despite the best of intentions, not all of these initiatives are effective or achieve their desired outcomes. Indeed, some policies and practices are implemented despite strong indications that they may have adverse effects or that they fail and do not reach their objectives.
There's a lot of evaluations that are being conducted, but the results that come out of these evaluations are often not implemented because there's a lack of funding and a lack of political commitment.
When a policy or a practice has been evaluated, then this evaluation evidence is not implemented. So it's really something that is missing, is the hole in the chain.
But what can be done to root integration initiatives within a more evidence-based approach? And when evaluations take place, how can we ensure that the findings and recommendations generated from these reports are utilized?
Firstly, I think we need to create a different range of outputs in terms of how we're sharing this information. So research is often siloed between researchers read academic papers, policymakers read policy papers, practitioners do bottom-up research or bottom-up work. I think we need to fuse all of that, and we need to create a shared language, and we need to share our results, and we need to create a communication strategy for doing that.
An EU-funded initiative called Sustainable Integration Practices, or SPRING for short, aims to improve the situation.
The new network that we launched as part of SPRING, we bring together different experts, especially evaluation experts and different experts that know a lot about evidence-informed policymaking, and especially those that work on topics related to migrant integration. And with these different experts, we have been reflecting on how do we promote an evidence culture? What are the true obstacles and how do we solve them? First of all, practitioners and communities of practice need access to evidence. That means that we need to map all the evidence, and that's part of what the SPRING project does.
That we provide the tools that make it easier to draw on evidence.
Better use the resources we have that will be, I would say, reduced over the next years. So work with an evidence-based cultures becomes even more and more important, because we will need to do the same or even more with less resources.
I think it is very important for producing a culture that you nurture this culture through the evidence of what people have done of positive or also critical practices, which may give you the opportunity or for learning or for reflecting on the practices.
There are multiple ways to promote an evidence culture in migrant integration policy making. The first one, for example, is to use a tiered evidence funding model. This is a new model that would promote funding practices that actually work. So this means that you allocate more funding to projects that have a bigger evidence base, and then less funding to projects with a smaller evidence base. A second way to promote an evidence culture is to use pilot projects. There's often a lack of political buy-in or political willingness to invest in new practices, especially because it's a bit, will they work? They're very costly, it's politically very sensitive. But by starting with a small pilot project, it's less costly, you can try it out, and if it works, you can scale it up and make sure and build it out. A third way, which is I think the most important, is stakeholder engagement. So to make sure you involve all relevant stakeholders throughout the entire policy cycle, and then especially beneficiaries, so immigrants and refugees for those who will benefit from those practices and policies, and at the same time practitioners, so those who will actually carry out the policies. They often know best what the biggest obstacles and problems are.
A lack of consultation and involvement of migrant communities in that policy. I think this is key. I think the research bears this out around the world, and I think global North countries need to do more to involve migrant communities in policy making.
The SPRING Evidence Toolkit brings together different tools and different resources that help different practitioners, policymakers to work more evidence-based. And it's really great because it walks them through the entire policy cycle. So it starts with, where do I find evidence to help me design policies that work? how do I implement them? Then there's different tools on how to evaluate these practices, and then there's a step, how do I disseminate these findings to make sure that other people can learn from the work that I've done. In addition to this, there's also 2 sections that are incredibly helpful, and they help promoting stakeholder engagement throughout this entire policy cycle and making sure that there's funding to fund each stage of this evidence-based policy-making cycle. What I would say to a policymaker is that there's a lot of resources out there that can be used to help you conduct evaluations or to find evidence, but none of these existing resources and tools really address the particular issues and obstacles that people working on migrant integration run into. So we address all these very particular issues and bringing all these different wonderful resources together in one practical place to help policymakers work more evidence-based.
So we can better bridge the gap between evidence and policy by speaking to people on the ground. We need grassroots evidence, and we need practitioners, we need refugee newcomers and migrants, we need advocacy organisations, folks who speak to people who do this work. I think they've been the missing link to a number of research and policy initiatives over time, and that's one of the exciting things about the Spring project. It does bring in these communities of practice into the conversation.
The gap between evidence and policy is an incredibly complex question, and I think you require a variety of different approaches, and I think many of them are tackled in the Spring project. If I could mention one, it would be to foster partnerships, and one way we do that through this project is through the communities of practice. Another way is through launching the evidence network and building connections across research, policy and practice, and also migrant and refugee communities themselves and other stakeholders. Those are the most effective ways to share evidence, to share what works, and also to bring it and target and tailor the information in a way that speaks to the person you're talking to. As the Policymaker Academy that we are organizing fits with the evidence toolkit, and it trains the policymakers how to use the toolkit and how to work more evidence-based. It's very hands-on, so it creates different training modules on the different subtopics and shows them how to use the toolkit and addresses also their particular questions.
The evaluation toolkit, as well as other resources for practitioners such as promising practices, research and guidance, can be found at integrationpractices.eu.